Hey there, bookkeeping side hustle community. It's Kate. I'm excited to be here today to have a conversation that we're calling the state of the virtual bookkeeping and accounting industry. These are results from a 2025 survey that Serena Shoup conducted. She is known as through her program and her brand, the Ambitious Bookkeeper, but she kind of just took it upon herself to say, I'm interested in some hardcore data. And I'm going to let her explain sort of the genesis of that idea. But that's what this conversation is about, the state of the virtual bookkeeping and accounting industry. And those are the people who watch this show. So glad that you're here. This is going to be really relevant to the folks in the bookkeeping side hustle community. And without further ado, we're gonna jump in. So Serena, please introduce yourself. Give us and then we'll start with our first question about what prompted you to conduct this survey.
Yeah. Hello, Kate. It's so fun to be on a live stream with you again. I feel like it's been a little too long.
Too long, yes.
But yeah. So I'm Serena. I am the founder and creator of the Ambitious Bookkeeper brand, a brand I created about 5 years ago when I was a few years into building my firm, or my business, my bookkeeping business, which we'll get into terminology around this in a couple of minutes, which I'm excited about. And yeah, I basically built this brand. It started as a blog of me just kind of documenting some of my journey, a lot like Kate does, although she's super thorough and detailed. I just kind of documented some of my processes and things that have helped me along the way. And so, yeah, I created a blog and then eventually turned that into the podcast, which is the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. And I've created some courses and group coaching programs along the way to help others in the industry. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and to continue to serve the industry.
Awesome. Yeah. And y'all, there'll be links below in the description for anything we particularly mention. I'm going to chat the links to the survey right now in the chat. The comments. And so let's just talk about, the genesis of this. Why did you, this is a lot of work. Why do you want to do this? No one paid you to do this, right? I don't think, maybe.
No.
So why did you think that we needed this information?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, it was way more work than I expected it to be. I was like, oh, this seems like a fun idea. I was actually inspired by someone who did something similar in the online business space, which is the niche that I serve at my firm. And I had participated in that survey and I was like, oh, this seems really easy. I could throw this together for my industry. And also I thought it would be more relevant for us smaller firm owners, right? There's a lot of solo firm owners out there, small teams, people like us who are kind of doing this on the side of other things. Like I still consider my business like the side hustle to motherhood. Like that's my main focus, is being there for my children. And so, I was like, there's other surveys that come out in the industry from like Thomson Reuters and Intuit and things like that. But it seems like most of the information and the data that they collect is from larger firms, like regional firms with multiple locations, mostly CPA firms. And I felt like us little guys were kind of left behind and a lot of that stuff didn't feel very relevant. It turns out like it was a lot. It was a lot to kind of put together. And I threw out this like little idea and was like, let's put together a survey. And I kind of threw together some questions that I thought were relevant that I would want to see answers for as a small firm owner. And I had my team help me put it together in Airtable, which is something we've been trying to implement within our firm. But I'm not the one that has been learning Airtable. So when it came to actually like gathering and compiling the data, I really struggled with it. So word to the wise, like maybe if you're going to manage something like this, like I tried to, maybe learn the system you're gathering the data in. So I ended up not putting together the report by the time I said I would, which I struggle with that because I like to keep my word, but it was just, there was stuff happening in my personal life. And then it was just a bigger undertaking than I expected to gather all the data and kind of distill it down into something meaningful and to visualize it in a way that I wanted it to visualize it. And so I end up kind of at the 9th hour or 11th hour, whatever they say. I always
Yeah.
screw up those adages.
It's cool. Maybe where you're from, it's the 9th hour. That's fine.
It was really like after the deadline, I was like, okay, I'm just going to outsource this to someone on Upwork. And I kind of went back and forth with someone that, was a data analyst and someone that had put together some reports similar to this. But if you follow my brand, you know that I'm not super duper professional. And so a lot of which is funny because I come from corporate, but I feel like I don't want that to really be my brand voice. And so when I got back the first draft, I was like, this is way too formal for me. And so I kind of zhuzhed it up a little bit and then just ended up asking for just give me the file so I can put my branding to it and make it as pretty as I possibly can. It doesn't look the way that I wanted it to. I envisioned something totally different, but here we are. We're getting scrappy. Done is better than perfect.
Yeah. Well, and maybe this is just data is best over time anyway. So first of hopefully several years of this, I'm tickled that you did this. I have seen the results and I am already getting some takeaways in my own mind. And so I'm going to ask you about your takeaways, but I have noticed that quite a few more people have joined since we started. So guys, I'm going to chat one more time, the link to the survey. It'll be a lot easier to kind of process this conversation if you have the survey. So I'm going to put that in the chat again. And then can y'all chime in where you're listening from? Serena, where are you dialing in from? I know you can be all over the place sometimes. Where are you?
I know. I've been all over the place lately. Right now I'm at home in Arizona, northern Arizona. I am in the mountains, but it has been hot this week. It's been in the 90s, low 90s, but it's a dry heat, which I really used to laugh at people that would say that until I spent a week in Houston last week. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It is very different.
Yeah, and I'm dialed in from Fort Worth. So let us know where y'all are from. Okay, so we want to make this a manageable link. So I kind of want to just ask the question, so what? Survey, wonderful, lots of work. I'm grateful that you did it, but this is a long document. There's lots of graphs. It's going to take some mental energy to process that document and for people just to listen to this. And so what are you hoping that someone who invests the time into processing this data in their own mind, what are you hoping that they're going to do with it? Or also what are the main takeaways? Can you give us 3 or 4 or 5? Because there's a lot of answers in that survey. I'm curious. Yeah, let's just like pull out the main nuggets so we can answer that so what question.
Yeah. First of all, when I went into it, I go into a lot of things with like a scientist hat, I guess, where it's like it's just an experiment. Let's see what happens. I had my own kind of just from working with the industry and helping a lot of other bookkeepers, I had my own kind of preconceived notions of what results would be. And I was pretty close to it because, you know, I work with the industry. But for those of you who aren't in a community and communicating with other solo bookkeepers or small firm owners, what I hope you glean from this is that either A, you're on the right track or with what you're doing, because this seems to be like, you know, what other people are doing and the success that they're having. Or B, if you're brand new, this shows you kind of some guidelines of where to start and what's possible so that you don't underprice or, you know that you're right on the right track with where you want to go. And hopefully this helps you build a good foundation. And also lets you know that we got almost 650 responses.
That's amazing.
Which I thought was incredible. So thank you for sharing the survey because I know I couldn't have gotten that many without other people supporting me in that. But so hopefully it shows you that there's other people out there doing the same thing that you're doing. And if you are using a certain pricing methodology, maybe you're on the right track with it, or maybe you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was an option. So hopefully that's kind of what you can glean from it. And that's a lot of what I see in my community is people when you're working alone, starting this virtual thing on your own, you're at home by yourself, kind of in isolation. And a lot of what a community can provide is just confirmation that you're on the right track and just sounding board of, like, okay, I am doing things the way they should be done. A lot of my students come to me thinking they need a boss or someone overseeing their work because they're not confident in enough in it. And then once I get in there and talk with them or share my process or whatever, they're like, oh, that's exactly what I've been doing. That's all I needed was like a little validation.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of what comes out of this survey hopefully will be validation.
So what points should we share? I mean, everyone can read all the data, but are there some main stats?
Yeah.
Stats? That's the right word, right? Are there some stats that we should point out?
One of the things that I thought was really interesting, and again, this could be skewed data because of who my audience is and the majority of your audience and other people who shared the survey, but overwhelmingly, most of the people who responded were identified as solo bookkeepers, meaning zero team, doing it all alone, either as a side hustle or on, just a part-time thing or even a full-time thing. But a lot of people, most of the survey responses were solo bookkeepers and accountants. And most of the people who responded also have been offering bookkeeping or accounting services from 1 to 5 years, with a balance of offering it part-time and offering it full-time. So this was one of the areas where the way that I learned a lot conducting the survey. The way that I asked questions is kind of up for interpretation. So like, for instance, I could say I offer bookkeeping and accounting part-time, but maybe I have a full-time team member that is actually doing it full-time. So it's like, how do I answer that question? So I'm sure a lot of people were not quite sure how to answer the question. So sometimes some of the data might be like, well, it kind of depends on how you looked at it. And then another thing that I thought was really interesting is one of the questions I asked was, what do you call your business? So you've heard us kind of interchangeably talk about accounting firm or bookkeeping business.
Yep.
And the most common business identity, what people call their business, was bookkeeping business. So that I found interesting. And I was having a conversation with a friend last night as I was like working through these results. And I mentioned, I was like, yeah, it kind of depends on who I'm talking to on how I talk about my business. I don't know if that's the same with you, but yeah, it just really depends if I'm talking to a client or a potential client or someone who isn't a business owner at all. Like it all varies depending on what I think they know about what we do. What about you? How do you refer to your business?
This is a big mental struggle since day one.
Yeah.
My firm, it doesn't have a great name. It's Heritage Business Services. It's fine. I make a good living. It's fine. I would probably change it. But like way back, baby Kate in 2017, when I wanted like 2 clients and I had 2 mornings of no children, I just knew I couldn't use the word bookkeeping. Like that was I didn't know what to call my business, but like I just could not imagine going to like, I just couldn't. I don't know in what context, but I was like, I don't want to use that word. It did not sit well with me. So that was like first like wrestling with words. But then I know that in the survey, there's this idea of what do I call myself now? It's like as an operator. So that was naming my business. I have gotten comfortable with the word firm. So I say firm and I say that I have a business. It probably took me like years to be able to even say like, oh, I have my own business. Like that sounded probably very uncomfortable the first time I said it, because like I knew like I have 3 clients and I work 4 hours. Like I was like, that is not like insulting to the word business, right? But I don't have a problem with that anymore. I say the word firm a lot, like but the word, when I talk about what I do, I find that I use the phrase do accounting. And I don't know, that's weak sauce. I don't know. I am in Texas, so I can't like legally say the word accounting because I don't have a CPA, but also like there's no like police that's going to get me when I'm having coffee with someone. So I find myself using the phrase do accounting. One of the reasons why I say that though is because I really do run a non-traditional firm. Like I do FreshBooks tutorials. I YouTube about FreshBooks. I train one-on-one. Now, who does that? I have my FreshBooks office hours. So like my firm doesn't look really normal that like, no one would think of me running, like if they have an impression of what a bookkeeping firm or an accounting firm looks like, they wouldn't think of mine. So I think that's probably why I also struggle with what to say that I do. But accounting is just a stronger word. I like it better. The truth is I do bookkeeping. Like that is a true fact. I do like daily accounting tasks. Like that's AKA bookkeeping. So I don't know. I'm curious if to the folks listening live, if anyone else has a thoughts.
Yeah, chime in.
Wrestle with this idea of what to call yourself. I don't think I've ever said the phrase, I have an accounting firm. I don't think I've ever said that. I don't have a problem saying bookkeeping firm, but in conversation, I do find the phrase, oh yeah, I do accounting all day, every day. It's my specialty. Like I kind of say it kind of like casual, kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, and then I say like, oh, I'm fine calling myself an owner. I don't say CEO. I can't, that makes me like, gives me the shivers. I mean, and I want to be, I am the boss, but like, I don't know, that just feels uncomfortable still. So
yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. The conversation I was having last night, my friend asked the question, what even is a firm? And I was like, I don't know. So I went and just looked it up because I was like, we should talk about this because like I call that's mostly what I say I do when people ask like, hey, what do you do for a living? Or like, you know, how did you afford this house? Like my new neighbors, like what do you do? That's always a question. Like people are always curious, like, how did you buy a house? Well, so I basically just say I run an accounting firm, and which is kind of funny because, that is like a very small portion of the time that I spend. The most time that I spend working is spent on this brand, the Ambitious Bookkeeper, because it's a totally different business model. It's marketing, it's education, it's all this stuff. But I feel like it's so much harder to explain to the general public, the online business world. So I'm like, accounting firm is like an easy out.
Yeah.
Because most people understand what like, even if someone doesn't know what a firm actually is, it's common in our dialect, right? To say a law firm, right? Accounting firm, all those things. So it's like people can kind of understand it and be like, okay, like, so you do accounting. But like I say I run it because I'm not the one that actually does all the work for our clients. I have a team. But I looked up the definition of a firm in the business context. It's an organization that engages in commercial activities such as providing goods or services with the goal of making a profit. So even if you're not just providing services, you can say you're a firm, and it doesn't say anything about having a team either.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I like the word firm. That feels comfortable to me for some reason. I don't know if like some people might feel better with the word company or business. You can say I run an accounting business.
Yeah. I think the main takeaway of that is to use what you're comfortable with, because when you approach a potential client or people in your neighborhood and they ask, like, you're gonna like restrict yourself on like talking about your business if you're not comfortable about what you call it. So don't worry about what other people, here's the survey. Don't worry about what other people are calling their business. Like you have to be comfortable with what you're calling it. And be confident behind it. So,
and to be clear, this is a question in the survey about what do people call themselves. So that's what, like, there's a little philosophical stuff behind there, but I think it's a great like just study of the nouns that are available to you, y'all, and where you land, change it. Like maybe in different contexts with the neighbors, it's one thing. With when you're dressed differently, it might be a different word, like
exactly depending on the situation you're in. Like if I'm at a local networking mixer, I'm generally going to say I run an accounting firm, even if I'm not there to get clients. And then there's other conversations where like it was a mixer that I was at and I met another bookkeeping business owner and asked them what they did. And I was like, oh, you run a bookkeeping firm? That's awesome. Like, I also help other firms and other bookkeeping business owners. I'm kind of like a mentor in this space. So like, let me know if you ever want to grab coffee and pick my brain. Like, if you're local to me, you get like,
yeah,
like you potentially could get so much out of me.
for sure. It's like,
I have no idea.
And then I'm going to like extend the meeting a long time, and it's going to be coffee. It's going to be like the best meeting of the week.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, in the survey, I have those results of like what we call ourselves. The majority of people, like I said, call themselves bookkeeping business owners. That was like 38%, or bookkeeping businesses, sorry. And then bookkeeping firm was 28%. Accounting firm came in at 17.5%. Financial services business was almost 7%. And then there was an other category, which I left a blank space for people to say, like, what do you call yourself if you call yourself something different? And so in the survey, I listed out some of those things that people mentioned. Some people said accounting agency. Some people said accounting services. Some people said bookkeeping and tax practice or services, bookkeeping agency, bookkeeping and consult. Like, there's so many options. So look at the survey. If you feel uncomfortable with what you've been calling yourself, look at this and see if there's something else that feels better. And also, one of the things that will help too, that I always tell my students is like, same with pricing, like, don't let the first time you say things out loud be in front of someone. You've got to practice it at home.
For sure. Put it on the Post-it note in the bathroom, right? Like,
yeah.
You just got to say it a lot of times. And yeah. So what else is highlighting? And I see you're actually, Serena, y'all don't know this. I see her screen below. Should we share screens, or?
We can if you want. Like, if people want to see the results.
Yeah, let's put it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's put it up a little bit. I'm gonna add this to the stage. We have the banner at the top, so make sure you center things well. So yeah, give us another stat that we want to pull out. We probably have time for maybe like, I don't know, 2 to 3 more.
A couple more. Yeah. This one, and there's some more stats that I gleaned from this particular stat that I think are interesting. This one was full-time versus part-time bookkeepers / accountants. Like, every time it says bookkeeper, just know we're including everyone, but it's like really annoying. Kate and I were talking about this. It's really annoying to have to put both.
Yes.
So a significant number of people in our audience that took this survey, that's the caveat, right, are doing this part-time. So 31% were part-time, 17.5% were on the side of another job, and 51% were doing this full-time. So basically half and half, part-time, full-time. On the side of another job could also be considered part-time, right? So who knows, maybe people are doing this on the side of a job and they're also spending 40 hours. I don't know. Again, the way that I ask the questions, I'm sorry. Lessons learned.
Yeah.
And then one of the things I pulled out of that data too is that of the people who are doing this part-time, 27% actually have a team. And that's me. I'm in that bucket. Like, I only work part-time and I have a team that enables me to do that. And then 50% who are doing this full-time have a team. So like, of this 51%, 50% of those have a team, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So otherwise that means half of that far right number.
Yes.
They're working full time, but on their own. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That sounds stressful.
Yeah.
To me.
What was that?
That sounds stressful to me.
Yeah. Me
just
too.
just a lot to carry. Like, what happens if you get sick? How do you take a vacation? Like,
yeah.
I don't really have a team. I have some subcontract. I'm working there. If y'all read my biweekly newsletter, you would have followed my journey of like hiring, and I have some subs. But I really don't have a team, and so like, if I'm not working, I'm not earning very much money. But I also am still part-time though, so like, I can kind of shut as long as I'm fine with like reducing my income, I can be pretty shuttered for a week or two. So there's so many different flavors of this, but so what's the next one here?
So this was 58% of bookkeeping businesses don't have a team, kind of just confirming what we were talking about. And then these were other options. Some people have part-time contractors, some people have part-time employees, some have a mix of both. That's me, I have both. And then some people, a very small percentage, have full-time employees. So that I think was, again, going back to what you say, it kind of depends on what you're after and lifestyle wise, but like all the options are possible. Just because you're doing things part-time doesn't mean that you can't hire a team to support you. It just comes down to pricing effectively, right? And then this one was kind of interesting where we looked at the types of roles. So like an employee, some people that answered this survey are employees of other bookkeepers and accountants. Some are firm owners with a team, some are freelance or contractors for other firms. And what we kind of did with this data is looked to see, of these different buckets of people who answered the surveys, how long they had been offering these services. And so what like we got out of this was, early in people's careers, you start solo if you're, answering this survey. In the long run, firms with teams seem to be more sustainable, which of course, like, because if something happens, you can't do everything yourself. You need a team. And then what was kind of interesting is that like the freelance bookkeepers remain as freelancers throughout their career, if you look at this data in that way, if that makes sense. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. A lot of people are solo 1 to 2 years, which kind of gives us that information. This line, firm owner with a team, happens around 3 to 5 years. That's where most of those people are happening, right? And then of course these longer years too. So like once you have a team, it makes it seem like, okay, maybe you last longer in business. Is that because you're now beholden to paying a team and helping their, livelihood? Or is it truly that like that actually makes the business more sustainable?
Yeah. I'm going to jump in here. I got a couple questions. Raul asked, is it required to be an accountant to become a bookkeeper? The answer to that is no. But if you are asking that type of a question, Raul, you need to listen to Serena's podcast, y'all. I'm assuming you kind of know the book. Like you're asking kind of like a technical title question. You got to know accounting. So period, end of sentence. You got to know accounting to do this. But there's a link to her podcast in the YouTube description, y'all. She also has an upcoming very short bookkeeper business workshop, bookkeeping biz workshops. And it will be the quick way, Raul, for you to answer that question. Do not spend, tons of time and money figuring out if you don't even really know if you want to be doing this. So I love that. And she's going to equip you in those workshops, to really start to move forward, to become the person who's like, okay, I'm taking this seriously. I'm ready to keep going from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 10. Okay. And it's a great way to just get in her orbit and figure out if, you may or may not need further coaching beyond that. And then Ashley is saying she's a CPA. So she has all the credentials, but she said that she's doing it full time, but being paid as only making as much as a part-time person. So
sometimes that happens at the beginning of your business. I don't know how far into it you are, but that happens to us sometimes. And that would be like, I would say the first thing you need to look at then, if that's the case, is to look at your pricing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and we can dissect all of that. So I'm going to say, Ashley, definitely sign up for the workshops, but she also has a program for people who are pretty seasoned and established and who just need help kind of becoming that CEO, becoming that firm owner, whatever it is that you kind of want to be, that basically moving across this bar in this chart that we're showing right now to become that successful, long-lived firm with a team. And that's the Elevate program, right, Serena?
Yeah. So Elevate is more focused on gaining the skills to offer advisory, if that's an avenue you want to go into. The Bookkeeping Business Accelerator is where I cover, like, this is where it's important to have the knowledge of bookkeeping. I don't teach bookkeeping. I recommend other programs just like Kate does. Yes. But this is where once you have the skill of bookkeeping, I help you build a sustainable business. So we cover pricing, we cover marketing, all of the things in between, what to do for your clients each month, like packaging your services, all of those things. That's all in that accelerator program, which does open up after the workshops. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, I had taken a look at this data, and I think there was some marketing info that I thought maybe would be good to go to. So maybe we kind of wrap up with, I see you can see the scroll bar, y'all, so you can see how thorough this is. Yeah, like, or where do you want to take us?
Talk about pricing. I really thought this data was interesting, and this is something that I was really happy to see, to be honest. Maybe I don't know if I'm past the
well, if you can.
Yeah, here it is. So basically the typical monthly average fee, I was pleasantly surprised with, and I broke it apart as solo firms versus firms with a team, because I think that gives you more visibility into that data. So for solo firms, this is also self-reported, and so it relies on whoever answered these to be answering honestly and to actually understand what their average fee was. I didn't do top fee or low fee or any of that, which I want to do in the next survey, but this is the data we have. For solo firm owners, the average monthly fee was $550, which was really cool. I thought I was expecting it to be lower, to be honest. And then for firms with a team, the average monthly fee was almost $700 a month. So that was really cool. And then the other thing was the most common pricing methodology was fixed fee, value-based, and tiered packages. I kind of lumped them all together. Those were all separate options on the survey, which ultimately they're flat monthly fees, all of those. And so what that showed us was only 12% of firms that were surveyed are still charging hourly. And this is something I mentioned to you before we hit record. I was like, this made me feel like this topic is worn out now.
Yeah.
of the people in our industry being like, you have to charge fixed fee, like no more charging hourly. And most of the people that were charging hourly like are earlier on in their business, which is something I encourage, because you need to figure out what it is you're doing, how long it's going to take you, create your processes before you can really confidently charge a flat fee. Otherwise, you're probably going to end up in a situation like I think it was Ashley. Was it Ashley saying that she is working full time but getting paid part time? That's the situation you can get into if you prematurely charge fixed fees and don't understand your margins and all that kind of stuff. So I was pleasantly surprised at that stat because based on like if you listen to all the other accounting podcasts out there, it feels like they're constantly talking about time tracking and hourly billing. And I'm like, I feel like that topic is pretty worn out now.
Well, Serena, though, the people who are beating that drum are not, they're talking to the bigger firms, right? They're reading the surveys from the Thomson Reuters or from the AICPA. And so maybe us lifestyle people have it together, and it's only the big firms that are like, we charge for every 6 minutes. Like,
yeah,
like
that's true. And the crazy thing is like, is anyone that works at those huge firms even listening to those podcasts? Is that even their audience?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be. Those people seem to be content, like big firm, fancy, I mean, I don't know, like when I think about people who I know who went through like recruiting in school to like head that direction, there was like, yeah, a lot of them were never going to be business owners. Like, they're employee through and through, and that's fine. But yeah, so I guess just to push back on your comment, like, yes, maybe the drum has, like, we've beaten this to death, but it also might be because your population, your sample size could be so different from all these ones that have huge, where the data would say there's still a lot charging hourly. So,
and that's part of why I wanted to do the survey for our little corner of the internet of solo lifestyle firm owners. Yeah.
I think this is very, very interesting. It's causing me to think I need to raise my prices. So there's a little bit of like, ouch. So here we go. So we should move on now because I
Yeah.
don't like charging. No.
But again, remember that's average fee. That's not top fee. That's not bottom fee. It's like, which for me that like it confirmed where I have like I always tell people to establish a base price of something you're not willing to go below. So this wasn't the lowest fee that people were charging. There were people that answered in the 300 and 200 range, but the majority of the answers were in this range for the average. So that made my heart happy.
Yeah. And just to be, so y'all can learn from my, falls and foibles. It wasn't until January of this year that I said, I only wanted 4 new monthly clients this year, and none of them were going to be less than $500. For this year was the first time I said, I won't nothing. It's not worth it for me if it's less than $500. So I'm just now hitting that like average, y'all. But like, hey, here I am. I'm better than I was last summer. If we would have had this conversation last summer. So it's a journey.
Yeah.
And I learned from people like you and your content. And sometimes some of us are just thicker headed than others and take a little bit longer. But when you constantly are putting yourself around like information like this, it sure does help you to say, yeah, you know what? Not worth it. Not charging $295 ever again.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing that happens too, that you were like, some people are more thick-headed than others, is like, sometimes people will push back and say, well, that's all great and well for you in the industry that you serve, but my industry is never going to pay that. So I understand that there's definitely certain industries that won't pay that. So you have to make the decision if you want to continue to serve that industry or that size of business or not. Like, it's still up to you.
Right.
Yeah. This one was pretty cool too. Average number of clients for solo firms and firms with teams. So obviously if you have a team, you can get more work done. So firms with a team averaged about 17 clients, and then solo firms averaged about 7.5 clients. I will share my client load. And again, I'm part-time with part-time team members. We have about 20 clients at any given time. And then I also have what you're doing, the office hours thing. And I don't even want to talk about that. It is not going the way I wanted it to, but also I haven't put in the effort to market it. Yeah. So it's all on me.
We'll do another conversation. We'll do another stream about that.
Yeah. So that was my big goal for this year. And here we are in July.
Yeah, I got you, girl. I got some of those type of goals too. Anything on the marketing side before we maybe wrap up? Because the point is, I want people to download the survey and read it and digest it. They can follow you on you're obviously in my community. You're all over social. So like the conversation doesn't have to stop here, but pull out one more last final thing.
Let me make sure it's centered. Okay. This one we gave some options of like, if you need support, like what are the areas that you need support in? Most of the people commented or checked off the box system and workflows. And then when I dug into the other, for some reason, I didn't give marketing as an option. So again, lesson learned. When I dug into this other bar, that was a significant number. It's 10% of people had checked this off. In the comments, they had, I put this up here. They had said marketing and client acquisition was something that they needed support in, and a top goal of theirs. So that's, I found that kind of interesting because sometimes the data would conflict when we were digging into the results of like people saying, one of the answers I didn't even publish on this report, but one of the questions was, what's your top goal this year for your firm? And most people had said growth, but then of those people had said growth or more clients, they also said that systems and workflows was where they needed the most support. So what kind of I gleaned from that was, okay, they want to grow, but they're holding themselves back from growing. And there's like a blockage there because they're not confident in their systems. So like they kind of go together. I think all of us can relate to that.
Yeah. I don't really remember what I put. I wouldn't be surprised if you checked out my record and I said that I wanted to grow, but I need the most help on systems and workflows because I could have a lot more clients. I have been able to my inbound is great because I YouTube about FreshBooks, right? So I have tutorials, people find me, they've already fallen in love with me before I speak to them because I'm just like, woohoo, like they've watched an hour of me talking, so it's there, and I'm like pushing them away. I'm like, I don't want them to get close. I don't want to submit a monthly package for them because I know that my internal structure is bad, and that I'm scared to like hire, and I'm scared to get that first part-time employee that's going to only be doing client work for 15 hours a week or something like that. Like that's what I would need, and that is like terrifying to me. So I'm someone who wants to grow, but it's not marketing reasons that I can't grow. It's systems and workflows reasons that I can't grow. So I don't know if I'm the only one like that, but I'm
the same because like I said, my team is part-time and I'm constantly checking in with them. That's one thing. If you do have a team, you have to constantly have this conversation about capacity and how people are feeling about their workload. But that's where I'm at too, because they all still want to stay part-time. So it's like, I can't bring on more people unless I want to do that work myself or hire more people. So it does create like a mental block of like marketing and putting yourself out there because, oh my gosh, then people are going to want to work with me and then I'm going to have to hire. And it's like this bad, negative cycle. But yeah.
Well, I think we've talked about some of our surprises. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, but I think we've kind of hit a lot of any huge surprise you wanted to mention if you made notes? No?
Not so much. I think we hit on most of it. Yeah. My biggest surprise was how much of an undertaking it actually became.
Well, that's fair enough. And so I think we also got at some ways about how we can use this data to improve our own businesses. Obviously, y'all, she did like, P.S. You did an amazing job on this report with the little floaty memos and like all the extra bells and whistles.
It's a Canva, dude.
Well,
it's a Canva.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So like beautiful and helpful. So obviously you need to be using the online version to read this report. I'm going to take this off here. So you did a great job. I think it's super valuable. And now if we can just implement what we've learned, I'm sure I know that you have a longer podcast episode on your own channel about this. And I'm sure you're over the next month or two, it's going to, as someone who, you make a podcast, I'm sure it's going to percolate up in your brain. Like, I got to talk about that, or it's going to hit you what these numbers actually meant. So, y'all, her link to her podcast will be below where she can digest a lot of this. That's a great way to just stay in her orbit, like I said before. And jumping on the wait list for the bookkeeping biz workshops, a very useful, compact, not a high commitment, right? It's like, are you doing them over like 6 weeks now? Is that what it is?
So the workshops are a 3-day, it's kind of like other people would call it a challenge, but I call them workshops because it's our industry. Like it just sounds better. I'm actually I used to do them over 5 days. This time I'm condensing it over 3 days. So they're going to be like an hour and a half for 3 days at the end of August. I'm doing them in the evenings for all you side hustlers. And so that's the structure of that. And then at the end of those, I open up a new cohort of the bookkeeping business accelerator, the bookkeeping business accelerator. And that's that full program where if you do want to dive deeper and want the like pointed individual but group coaching and community aspect, they're usually very small cohorts. It's not a program that you join that has like thousands of people in it. Like it's a small program. You get access to me every week on a coaching call as a group. So yeah, that will open up at the beginning of September. But join the workshops. They're like, and then you can decide if you want to continue on or just use what you learned in the workshops and go forth and create a sustainable business.
Yeah, like I just keep thinking how much of a better teacher you're going to be because you have been breathing this data for the last 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, like all that's going to affect what you're going to talk about in August, like whether you want it to or not, right? You're going to be like, turns out people need this. Turns out people need this. Turns out I need to say this 90 times because no one's getting it. Like whatever these cool bits of data have revealed, I'm certain it's going to impact your programs. And like, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
well, yeah, y'all, the links you need are below. Serena, thank you. Thank you for all this hard work. We'll try to give you 1,000 next year for the survey.
Thank
How
you.
about that? So you just got to commit to doing it and maybe hire a statistician on Upwork or something.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna need to. Someone to help me actually write the survey so that the data we get is easier to sift through for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, any of you who ask questions in the comments, I'll come back onto YouTube and answer you in the comments. So
Perfect.
Don't worry, not forgetting about you.
Thanks so much. We've got lots of praise for you here in the chat here. So we will be in touch. I know you'll be on again one day. We'll get you back on for all of your great instruction. Talk to y'all later. Adios, everyone.
Bye.